Marcus Washington felt sharp nails dig into his shoulder. "Get up. Out of my seat, boy." Karen Whitmore yanked him upward with the casual cruelty of someone who had never been told no. His coffee splashed across the Wall Street Journal in his lap, hot liquid soaking his jeans. She shoved him sideways, dropped into seat 1A, and smoothed her Chanel skirt as though she'd just planted a flag on conquered land. "That's better," she declared, sliding her diamond-lined wrist across the armrest that was no longer his. Some people forget where they belong. Marcus stood hunched beneath the cabin ceiling, hoodie plain, jeans faded, sneakers worn. To Karen, that was proof enough. Around them, phones lifted like a digital jury. A teenager whispered, "I'm going live." The red tick-tock timer blinked on. Marcus glanced at the boarding pass in his hand. The ink was slightly smudged, but the numbers glared back. 1A. His seat. His ticket. His right. Have you ever watched injustice unfold in plain sight while an entire crowd pretended it wasn't happening? That's what the cabin felt like. Flight doors closing in 10 minutes. All passengers must be seated. A flight attendant hurried forward, ponytail bouncing. Sarah Mitchell's smile looked painted on, concern directed only at the woman already seated. She touched Karen's shoulder gently. Are you all right? I'm so sorry for this disturbance." Marcus stepped closer, boarding pass extended. "This is my seat. 1A. Sarah barely glanced at the paper. Her eyes moved over his hoodie, his skin, his sneakers, then dismissed him. "Sir, I think you're confused. Economy class is toward the back." Karen sighed loudly, making sure everyone heard. Finally, someone with common sense. Marcus kept his voice calm, professional. "If you would just look carefully at my boarding pass." Sarah cut him off. "So, please don't make this more difficult. I'm sure your real seat is quite comfortable." Behind them, the TikTok counter jumped. 500 viewers, then 800. Comments scrolled. This is racism in real time. Check his ticket. Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket. Messages from his office. Board meeting moved to 4 p.m. "Where are you?" Karen leaned back, smirk curling. "Putting on quite a show, aren't you?" Sarah noticed the expensive-looking phone, but ignored it. "Final warning. Sir, move to your actual seat or I'll need to call security." "I am in my actual seat." Her voice sharpened. "No, you are not. This is first class." The air grew thick, heavy. Passengers shifted uncomfortably. Some began filming openly now. An elderly man cleared his throat. "Maybe you should just check his boarding pass." "I can handle this," Sarah snapped. Karen twirled her diamond bracelet. "Look at us. Look at him. It's obvious who belongs where. I've been flying Delta for 15 years, diamond medallion." Marcus answered evenly. "I have the same status. Please verify." But Sarah didn't. She pressed the call button. "David, I need the person in first class." Passenger in the wrong seat refusing to comply. Footsteps approached. David Torres arrived, his tone carrying authority before he even spoke. One glance. White woman seated comfortably, black man standing awkwardly. His mind made up the story instantly. What seems to be the problem? Sarah gestured at Marcus. "This passenger refuses to move to economy. His disrupting departure." David didn't even request a ticket. "Sir, you need to sit where you belong immediately. We don't have time for games." Marcus held out the boarding pass again. "This is my documentation." David's eyes flicked over it without seeing. "I don't have time for fake papers. Move, or security will remove you." Gasps rippled down the aisle. The TikTok counter shot to 5,000. Comments screamed, "Sue them!" Unbelievable. Karen basked in the chaos. "I've never seen such entitlement. He buys one credit card, one hoodie from an outlet, and thinks he belongs with us." Marcus stayed silent. His stillness unnerved her more than any argument. "Defend yourself," she taunted, "unless you know you're wrong." Another flight attendant arrived. Then another. Within seconds, 4 of them formed a semicircle around him. The cabin shrank, walls pressing in. "Move to economy now," Michelle Rodriguez ordered, voice low and sharp. or you'll leave in handcuffs. Phones everywhere recorded. Amy Carter's stream exploded past 15,000 viewers. Hashtags filled the chat. #Delta Racism, #Justice for Marcus. Karen stood, gesturing wildly. Does anything about him scream first class? Look at those shoes. Walmart. Jeans? Discount store. Hoodie? Target. Don't tell me I can't recognize cheap. James, the youngest crew member, nodded. Exactly. First-class passengers present themselves differently. Michelle folded her arms. We're trained to identify people out of place. It's about protecting the premium experience. Marcus looked down at his hoodie, then up again with quiet calm. He didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to fight. His phone was already in his hand. Delta app open, thumb moving with precision. The notification on Marcus's phone still glowed. Board meeting moved to 4 p.m. Karen caught sight of it and laughed loudly, the kind of laugh meant to humiliate. Oh, look, he's got a text about a board meeting. How cute. Probably from his manager at McDonald's. The cruelty hung in the air like smoke. A few passengers flinched, uncomfortable, but the flight crew seemed to draw energy from her confidence. So, David snapped, his patience gone. This is your final warning. Security is already on the way. Marcus's voice was soft, steady. Good. I'd like them to see this. The calmness unsettled the crew. They expected anger, yelling, maybe even threats of lawsuits. Instead, Marcus stood as though he were quietly documenting every detail, waiting for the right moment. See what? Sarah demanded. You making a fool of yourself. Him proving he doesn't belong here, Karen added smugly. Just look at him. Do those shoes scream first class? That hoodie? That face? A teenage passenger blurted out, not bothering to whisper anymore. This is messed up. You're being racist. James whipped around, defensive. Excuse me? We're following protocol. This has nothing to do with race. Then why won't you check his ticket? The teenager shot back. Because we can tell when someone's lying, Michelle said coldly. It's called experience. Marcus looked down at his well-worn walking shoes, then back up at Karen. There was no anger in his eyes, only something closer to satisfaction, as if the pieces were finally falling into place. Has a point, Michelle pressed. First-class passengers understand presentation. They respect the environment. Exactly, James said eagerly. It's about respect for the airline, respect for the premium experience. Amy, still live streaming, whispered into her phone. This is the most racist thing I've ever seen in person. They won't even look at his boarding pass. Her viewer count climbed past 25,000. On Twitter, #Delta discrimination began to trend. David's radio crackled. Security, ite. 2 minutes out, came the reply. Karen clapped her hands like she'd won. Finally, professional help. Now maybe we can get this fake out of here. She turned toward Marcus with venom in her eyes. I hope you're happy with yourself. Now the entire plane knows what kind of person you are. Marcus tilted his head. His voice was quiet but razor-sharp. And what kind of person am I? The question caught Karen off guard. She blinked, regrouped. The lying kind. The kind who steals. The kind who tries to trick people with fake tickets and fake stories. I haven't told any stories, Marcus replied evenly. Your presence is a story, Karen snapped. This fantasy where you belong in first class. Reality's about to knock. The crew nodded in agreement. They convinced themselves Marcus was a fraud. They were the guardians of order. Then came the heavy footsteps. 2 security officers boarded, radios buzzing. Sarah pointed at Marcus instantly. That's him, the disruptive passenger. Officer Williams, a black man in his 40s, studied the scene. Beside him stood Officer Carter, an Asian woman with watchful eyes. What's going on? Williams asked. David jumped in with his rehearsed explanation. This passenger refuses to sit in his assigned seat. Claims he belongs in first class despite obvious evidence to the contrary. Obvious evidence. Officer Carter raised an eyebrow. Such as? The crew hesitated. They hadn't expected pushback. Sarah floundered. Well, look at him. Officer Williams' expression hardened. I need actual proof, not observations about appearance. Karen seized a pause. Officers, I've been patient, but this man has been harassing me for 10 minutes. I just want the seat I paid for. Understood, Officer Williams said. He turned to Marcus. Sir, may I see your boarding pass? Marcus handed over the crumpled paper. Carter studied it closely. Silence stretched through the cabin. She looked from the ticket to Marcus, then to Karen sitting smugly in 1A. This boarding pass is seat 1A, she said slowly. David lunged forward, obviously forged. Just look at him. Does he look like he can afford first class? That's not how this works, Carter began, but Karen cut her off. Please, officer, use common sense. I've been flying Delta for 15 years. Diamond medallion. Why would I lie? She pulled up her phone, flashing her digital boarding pass. See? Seat 1A. Right here. Williams examined her phone, then glanced back at Marcus's printed pass. The situation was no longer simple. Sir, he said carefully to Marcus, may I see your ID, please? Help us clear this up. Marcus reached into his pocket deliberately. Every movement was calm, measured. He pulled out his phone instead of his license. His voice shifted, deeper, steadier, carrying authority. Actually, there's something all of you should see first. He tapped his screen. The Delta Airlines logo dissolved into a dashboard few people on Earth had access to. Layers of data filled the display, corporate metrics, executive controls, internal codes. At the top, a header in bold letters. Marcus Washington, Chief Executive Officer. Authority level, Global All Access. Employee ID 00001. Officer Carter's eyes widened. Officer Williams leaned closer, his professional mask cracking. Sir, he whispered. The officers straightened, their entire posture changing. Authority drained from the crew and rushed back to the man they had been trying to shove aside. David caught the shift and demanded, What are you looking at? Marcus turned the screen toward him. David's eyes darted across the words, disbelief collapsing into horror. His clipboard slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. Sarah craned her neck to see, and the color drained from her face. Oh my God, she muttered, hand trembling. James and Michelle crowded forward. Their mouths fell open as the reality sank in. Every single employee on that plane ultimately worked for the man they had just humiliated. Mr. Washington, Officer Williams said quietly, respectful now. We weren't aware of your position. Marcus's gaze was steady. Of course you weren't. That was the point. The cabin had gone completely silent, save for the hum of phones capturing every second. Passengers sensed a power shift, even if they couldn't see the screen. Karen looked around, confused. What? What is it? Can we please resolve this? Marcus finally turned the phone toward her. She scanned the display. Her smugness drained into disbelief, then fear. You can't be, she stammered. Marcus's voice was calm, almost gentle. I own 6 to 7% of this airline. The storm had broken. Ms. Whitmore. Marcus's voice stayed calm, but the weight behind it was undeniable now. I don't just own seat 1A. I own every seat on this aircraft. The words landed like a physical blow. Karen's manicured hands gripped the armrests, his armrests, as though the leather itself might save her. David's voice cracked. "Yes, sir. We had no idea. We were simply following standard." Standard what? Marcus cut in, still gentle, but sharp as glass. Standard procedure is to verify documentation. Standard procedure is to treat every customer with dignity. Instead, you skipped the paperwork and went straight to judgment based on what I look like. Sarah's hands trembled. "Mr. Washington, we're so sorry. It was a mistake." "You made several mistakes," Marcus corrected. "But the greatest one? Believing that respect is something earned by appearance instead of owed to every human being." Across the cabin, Amy's livestream had surged past 89,000 viewers. The comment feed was moving too quickly to follow, but one truth was clear. The world was watching. Marcus glanced at his watch. Not for the departure time, but for his calendar reminders. A flash of text made passengers gasp when they glimpsed it. 3:47 p.m. current time. 4 p.m. emergency board meeting. Discrimination protocol review. 4:15 p.m. legal debt. Federal compliance briefing. 5 p.m. media relations. Press conference. Officer Carter caught sight of the display. So, this was deliberate. Marcus nodded. Yes, I've been conducting unannounced audits of our passenger experience, and today's exercise uncovered failure at every level. The crew went still, realization dawning. They weren't dealing with a random passenger. They'd walked into a test designed by the very man who wrote the rules, and they'd failed in front of a global audience. Karen tried to rise, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. I didn't know. I had no idea. Marcus's gaze fixed on her. Would it have mattered if I were simply Marcus Washington, passenger, and not Marcus Washington, CEO? Would you have treated me with dignity then? The silence that followed was an indictment in itself. Karen had no answer because they both knew the truth. Miss Whitmore, Marcus continued evenly, you are sitting in seat 1A. That seat is reserved exclusively for the chief executive officer when traveling. At this moment, you are occupying the CEO's personal seat. Karen looked down at the chair as if it had suddenly turned molten, heat rising into her palms. Everything she had just done, the insults, the arrogance, the dismissal, it all came crashing down at once. David scrambled to recover. Mr. Washington, please, if we could speak privately, I'm sure we can resolve this misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding, Marcus said firmly. You and your colleagues profiled a passenger based on skin color and clothing. You dismissed his documentation. You threatened him with arrest. The fact that I am your CEO only magnifies the disgrace. He gestured toward the glowing cameras. And it's all being recorded, witnessed by this cabin, streamed live to nearly 100,000 people. Michelle finally found her voice. Sir, please, we can fix this. We'll do whatever it takes. Marcus studied her face for a moment. Miss Rodriguez, you threatened to put me in handcuffs for occupying my assigned seat. Tell me, how do you plan to fix that? The crew stood mute. They had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Officer Williams cleared his throat. Mr. Washington, what would you like us to do? Marcus turned to him. Around them, 200 passengers leaned forward, waiting to see how power would be wielded when the tables turned. Officers, he said quietly, I'd like you both to witness what happens next. Documentation will be critical for the federal inquiry. Federal inquiry. The words rippled through the cabin like an Arctic wind. Marcus unlocked his phone again and scrolled his contacts list. Names appeared that left the crew visibly shaken. General Counsel, Direct Line, HR Emergency Protocol, Media Relations Crisis Team, Board Chair, Immediate Response. Marcus rose to his full height. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this delay, but what you've witnessed today is why change is needed in corporate America. He looked directly at Karen, who was frozen in his seat. Miss Whitmore, you have 30 seconds to return to your actual seat before I make my first phone call. Her diamond-polished composure cracked completely. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. You meant every word, Marcus replied evenly. The question now is, what happens next? The cabin held its breath. Marcus tapped the first number. The call connected instantly, speakerphone projecting every word through the cabin. Marcus Washington's office. Legal department. This is Patricia Hendris. Patricia, it's Marcus. I need immediate documentation for a federal discrimination case. I'm on Flight 447. Her tone sharpened. Sir, what happened? I was racially profiled by 4 of our crew members and a passenger. The entire incident is being recorded and streamed live to an audience of nearly 100,000. Patricia's silence lasted only a moment, but it carried the weight of law. We'll have a full legal team assembled within the hour. Are you injured? Not physically, but our compliance and reputation have been severely damaged. Marcus's gaze locked on David. Employee number 47,291 threatened to have me arrested for sitting in my own seat. I'll need his full employment file and termination papers prepared immediately. David's face drained of color. Mr. Washington, please. I have a family, a mortgage. I was only following what I thought was protocol. Marcus's voice hardened. Protocol? Show me the document that says you should ignore a boarding pass because of skin color. David had nothing, because no such protocol existed. Patricia, Marcus continued, prepare all documents related to our anti-discrimination policies. Clearly, they are failing. Should we loop in the FAA? Yes, and the Department of Transportation Civil Rights Division, Patricia confirmed. Do it, Marcus said, and prepare federal civil rights violation filings under Title II, both institutional and individual liability. He ended the call, then immediately dialed the HR emergency line. Marcus Washington's office, Human Resources. This is Director Janet Mills. Janet, it's Marcus. I need immediate employment actions regarding Flight 447 crew. The silence in the cabin was suffocating. Passengers recorded. Crew members trembled. Sarah Mitchell, employee 23,847. 6-month unpaid suspension. Mandatory bias training. Psychological evaluation required for reinstatement. Sarah collapsed into her jump seat, tears streaking her cheeks. 6 months without pay meant losing her apartment, maybe more. James Carter, employee 18,293. 1-year probation. Weekly counseling sessions. Monthly diversity training. Any future incident, immediate termination. James nodded frantically, grateful to still have work at all. Michelle Rodriguez, employee 31,456. Demotion from senior flight attendant. 15% pay cut for 2 years. 100 hours of mandatory training and counseling. Michelle's shoulders shook. 15 years of career building, undone in 10 minutes. And David Torres. Marcus paused, letting the silence thicken.